So these are just my quick thoughts on UFC 273 that just happened over the weekend. I watched both the prelims and the main cards. So starting off with the prelims, you have Mike Malott knocking out Mickey Gall. He looked incredible in his UFC debut. Congratulations to him. Then it was Raquel Pennington defeating Aspen Ladd by unanimous decision. Ladd looked confused at the end of the fight as to why she lost, which I thought was surprising. I thought it was pretty obvious that Raquel Pennington won the first two rounds and Aspen Ladd won the third. But that was an entertaining fight. Then we had Anthony Hernandez versus a UFC newcomer, Josh Fremd. So that was a pretty solid fight. I thought Fremd, he looks like he was gassed out at the end of round one, but then went on to win round two. Just Hernandez was a bit too much for him in round three, so I gave that one Hernandez 2-1. And then the featured prelim bout was Ian Garry versus Damien Weeks. And I thought Garry looked not dominant, but I thought he won a pretty comfortable unanimous decision. I thought he won all three rounds. Then starting off on the main card, you had Marco Madsen defeating Vinc Pichel. Probably said that name wrong again. But I thought it was 2-1. I thought Madsen won the first round. I thought Pichel won the second. And then Madsen didn't dominate the last round, but had most of the control, and so he took the decision. Then we had Mackenzie Dern and Tecia Torres. I didn't agree with the judge's decision on this one. I thought Tecia Torres won the first round and won the third round, and Mackenzie Dern won the second, but they gave the decision to Mackenzie Dern. But it was a very good fight, very close fight. Then we had probably the fight of the year candidate, or the number one fight of the year candidate at the moment, in Gilbert Burns going up against Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev winning that by unanimous decision. And I believe it was 2-1 that the judges gave it. Personally, I had Chimaev winning the first round just purely because of the knockdown. I thought up until then, honestly, I thought Burns was winning. And then in the second round, I thought Gilbert Burns easily took that one. And then the third round's a coin flip for me. I honestly, watching it live, did not know who to give it to. So you could have given it either way. I think both were deserving of a win. And it's great that Dana White's given Gilbert Burns the win bonus for that performance that he put on. And they got the fight of the night bonus deservedly. So it's going to be interesting to see what the UFC does with Khamzat. I believe Dana said that Colby's next. I honestly, after watching that fight against Gilbert Burns, I think that Colby's going to beat him. I think that Colby's pressure and pace is going to be too much. And I definitely think that Usman would beat Chimaev. I think just, Chimaev with his striking, all of his strikes were very loopy. They were big hooks. And I think Usman with his straight punching, I think is just going to get it done. I think he's got the defensive wrestling to stop Chimaev, particularly because they're roughly the same size. I think Colby, it'd be interesting to see how Chimaev and Colby goes in the wrestling side of things. But yeah, I do think Colby would take it just, and I honestly think that Usman would beat Chimaev, but they'd be fun fights. It'll be interesting to see what the UFC does with Gilbert Burns. I don't think his stock goes down after that performance. And then we had the biggest upset of the weekend, Aljamain Sterling unifying the titles, and he's now the undisputed UFC bantamweight champion. I don't know how people think that Yarm won that fight for me personally. I gave round two a 10-8 to Aljamain Sterling. I think he landed some vicious ground and pound, and he had dominant back control, was going for multiple submissions. I gave round three to Sterling, and I gave round 4 and 5 to Peter Yan. But as I said, I gave round two a 10-8. And then round one, I think, is a coin flip. But honestly, I think that Aljamain Sterling won it. I thought he landed more shots just watching it live. Yan was putting pressure on him, but I don't think he did anything with that pressure outside of landing one big overhand left. But I thought Sterling landed more strikes, so I thought he took round one. So honestly, I thought it was Sterling 48-46 watching it live, but I'll probably have to rewatch it again. Either way, next fight to make is Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw, but Henry Cejudo has entered the USADA testing pool, or he will tomorrow, so it'll be interesting to see who he goes after, whether he's going to go after the winner of Sterling and TJ, or if he's going to go after Alexander Volkanovski, because he retained his title against the Korean Zombie. I wasn't surprised by this. Honestly, the fight could have been stopped sooner. Just Alexander Volkanovski was way too technical. He just beat the shit out of him, really. And it sucks to see. It was quite hard to watch as someone who really likes the Korean Zombie, but Volkanovski, he should be pound for pound number 2 at this point. I think it's hard to sort of knock Usman off of that top spot, but if anyone could, it's Alexander Volkanovski. He's won fights at middleweight, welterweight, and lightweight. And he's arguably the featherweight GOAT. So it'd be interesting to see what the UFC does with him. I think you set up the Holloway fight. And then, honestly, I would like to see the winner of Arnold Allen and Calvin Kattar fight for the belt. And then after that, I think Volkanovski's earned the right to go up and challenge for an immediate title shot at lightweight. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with Cejudo, whether he's going to go after Alexander Volkanovski or whether you're going to give him the winner of TJ and Aljamain Sterling. But there were some great fights at UFC 273. Next week's going to be Luque versus Muhammad 2. And that one could have title implications at welterweight, so that's one to watch out for.